Hello. All right. Welcome, everyone. Come on in, grab a brightly colored bagel or a piece of cake at 10 in the morning. Whatever your stimulant of choice is, there's coffee in the back, tea. Come and grab a seat and welcome to our class, Loving the Least. We've been talking about what it means to be a Matthew 25 church. And this week we are speaking about what it looks like to eradicate and address the issues of systemic poverty. And we're going to be talking quite locally. And we have with us Barrett Young, who is the CEO of the Rescue Mission of Trenton. If you were in worship, you heard him a little bit just now, and he's going to be sharing with us about his work and specifically what the Rescue Mission of Trenton is doing to address these issues really right in our backyard in Trenton. Just as a heads up, on your way out, if you want to get more information about anything that Barrett is talking about, there are two kind of pamphlets back there on that table with the red tablecloth. One is the quarterly report, and then one is the annual report. Is that right? Yeah. And I'm also going to grab a sign-up sheet, and so you can write down your name and your email address because Barrett can also share his slides. He has a lot of really interesting content that he's going to be sharing with us this morning, and just so that you could look at them at your leisure and not feel like you need to memorize everything today. I will email that out later this week. So I'm going to let Barrett kind of give you more of an intro of who he is, but I will pray to open up our time together and then hand it over to him. God, it's good to be together this morning. I thank you for this group of adults who you have called into this time, into this place, to come and learn from Barrett, to hear from him about the work that they are doing to feed and clothe the hungry and the naked right here in our neighborhood, really, in the city of Trenton. Lord, I pray that you would move us, that you would inspire us, that you would propel us to be your hands and feet in this world, because that is what you have called us to be, Jesus, to follow in your footsteps, to live the kind of lives that you yourself lived as you walked this earth. So I pray your blessing over Barrett as he teaches us, and that your Holy Spirit would be present with us this morning. It's in your name, Jesus, that we pray. Amen. All right, let's welcome Barrett.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you. Can I move this? Is that okay? Okay. I tend to move around a lot. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for having me. Those of you that were with us over at worship, I'm going to repeat a little bit of what I said. First, I wanted to thank you all for your partnership with the Rescue Mission. Through your generosity, we have been able to open a food pantry with the support that you all give us. I appreciate that, and the folks that we serve definitely appreciate it. I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach today. I think I've never been to any of the other teachings, so I think I'm going to take a different approach. What I want to do first is I want to tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Barrett Young. I am the executive director at the Rescue Mission of Trenton. I have been at the Rescue Mission for 19 years. My mother, Mary Gay Abbott Young, was the executive director before me. She was the executive director for about 38 years. I'm 41, so I literally was born and raised at the Rescue Mission. Going there as a kid was one of my favorite things to do. I don't know why, but I was always intrigued when my mom would get a call that there was an emergency, and I would run to the car and get in to go with her. I remember, like, as a kid, hiding in the back, because sometimes you're like, you can't come. And I'm like, no. And I would hide in the back seat to go. So I have learned a lot about the Rescue Mission. I've learned a lot about homeless, and I've seen the struggles that both homeless and folks who suffer from substance use abuse disorder, where it leads them in their lives, and this dismay that comes with all of those things. I never thought, when I originally went to college, I never thought that I was going to work at the Rescue Mission, just because my mom and I were very much alike, very passionate and very much outspoken. So we both knew that it might not be the best idea for us to work together. So when I graduated college, I went and worked at Carrier Clinic, which is really a mental health hospital, and it has a bunch of different units. And I worked in the adolescent unit. And as any, I guess you're 22, 23 years old adult does, the first thing I did when I got a job is I moved out, and I moved in with a friend, and we had an apartment. And after we had the apartment, then I had to buy a nice new car. And back then you had the new advent of having TVs in the car was available, and you could have wood grain and all this nice stuff. So I had to go buy a nice car with all of that in there. And my parents said to me, "You can't afford that in your apartment." And I said, "I'm working. I'm an adult. I can do it. I can do this." And about 3 months into those payments, I called my mom and I said, "Mom, I need a part-time job." And long story short, 19 years later, here I am as the CEO at the Rescue Mission. But my first job at the Rescue Mission is I worked overnight, 2 nights a week in our shelter. I was the evening supervisor in our shelter. And I'd always known the shelter. I'd been around, like I said, I'd been around the Rescue Mission my entire life. But I got to experience it in a whole new world. I always say to people, we run our shelters 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. There are very distinct happenings in the shelter. There's the day center where a lot of services take place. There's the evening shelter when folks start to come in really off the street to stay for the evening. And then there's the after hours crowd that comes in around anywhere between midnight and 3-4 a.m. And those are folks who are suffering immensely through addiction and or mental health. And it's just, you see some people who are really, really struggling in life. And it was an eye opener for me. And it was an eye opener, but it was also kind of drove me to my passion in life, was to help. And the best way that I know how to help is to be a good leader. Fast forward a little bit from my shelter days. When I graduated from college, I had my CAD. I got my CADC, which is Certified Alcohol and Drug Counselor. I'm not a very good counselor. I learned that very quickly. I'm going to tell you what I think you should do, how to do it. And if you have anything different, we're not going to really agree on anything. So I learned quickly I was not a good counselor. But I knew that I was a very good leader with individuals and with staff. And it's been a passion of mine forever. And I have 2 masters, one in management and one in nonprofit leadership. And those 2 things have driven me to where I am kind of today in my role. And really what drives me every day is I wake up thinking, how do I make the Rescue Mission better? Sometimes I wake up at 2 a.m. and write down notes on a notepad that I have next to my bed. It drives my wife crazy. She's like, "Why are you doing?" I said, I just thought of this. I got to write it down. But it's a thing that I never stop thinking about, is how do I help lead my staff to provide better services for the clients that we serve. And we have at the mission a bunch of different service levels that I'm going to talk about after I talk about some leadership and slides. This is a presentation that I did with my executive leadership. So all of my managers, directors, and chiefs over the course of probably a month and a half, we went through leadership and what it means and what the expectations are behind it. And I thought it had a little bit of a tie into what you all are learning and talking about in the church. And this talks to management values, expectations, and standards. And what this is I did this for myself, and what I thought my staff needed to bring to the table, and what I expect from them. And it's really, it's not just about what you do in the workplace. It's also about what you do outside of work and how you value what you do each and every day, but also what are your expectations for yourself and or others. So for me, when I looked at what are my leadership values, as I said, it's not just at work. For the last 6 years, I've also been a soccer coach. I've coached little guys that were when they were 6 all the way up till now. I was sharing in the back with some folks that my son is 13. He's 6'1". So I'm looking up at him, and a lot of the other kids on that I've coached, I'm looking up at as well. But I've coached them also to be good soccer players, but also to be good human beings and good individuals. So when I talk about leadership, it's not just when I go to work. So my leadership values are, one of the biggest things is I always say thank you. What I look at that is that's such an easy thing to do, but do you really mean it? And I think saying thank you to folks means so much, right? It just shows gratitude. And I'm very, very conscious of trying to say thank you when I ask people to do stuff or whatever it is. So in my signature, my email, it automatically it has thank you, and then my signature underneath of it. But a lot of times I write thanks. So people are like, so how many times are you going to thank me in this? I said, well, it's just a habit of mine. Huge in my opinion. Listen and respect each other. I think in today's world, that's really difficult. I think a lot of people have moved away from listening, and especially the second part, respecting each other. I think people have their own opinions, and that's where they kind of lead, and that's where they end up at. And it creates a lot of animosity and strife and all those other things. And I think if you listen to each other and respect each other, you don't have to always agree, but you can listen and respect. And that's a huge piece for me. Appreciate one another, especially at the rescue mission. The work we do is very difficult. Some of the folks aren't in the right state of mind. They're not very appreciative of what we're doing or offering. And it's not a simple place to come to work all the time, but so you need to appreciate each other and show that we're in this together, because it's not a simple lift, the work we do. Obviously, show kindness is critical. If you're not showing kindness to each other, I think that you can get lost in lack of a better way to say it, lost in the sauce very quickly, and feel unappreciated and all those other things. Critical to me is having fun, right? Both life, work, whatever else, it's always moving. You're always on the go. And I think laughter and smiling is good for the soul. So you can always have fun together. The work doesn't always have to be, you come in, you do this, you send 600 emails, you do that, blah, 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 and then you go home. Now you can sit and chat with each other. There's a human element to all of us, and a human element to everything that we do. And no gossiping, right? I think, in today's world, you can get lost in that very quickly. The woman who shared about her generosity talked about it with kids, right? Kids get lost in that quickly. In the Snapchat and all those other things kids use, and I think we do too. You can get lost in anything that you do, and you fall into that trap of I'm gonna gossip and make it my reality, but it's not. I think it's very hard to stay grounded in who you are. and just be present with that. So that's a huge piece. And then the expectations that I have doesn't really do too much for us here. And then these, I think, are the other things I want to touch on from these slides is these are my leadership values, right? And what do you lead from? What drives you? And again, respect, critical. And in regards to leadership and just in general in the world, if you don't have respect for others, I think it makes life very difficult. But what we have seen in our world today is people don't always respect each other and each other's values or boundaries or whatever it is. It's well, if you don't believe in what I believe, I'm not gonna. You are less than, or you are different than me. Well, everybody can be different, but do you have respect for each other? Is such a critical piece. Trust one another. Trust is a huge thing. Not only in work, life. I talked about it as a coach, right? When you're looking at a team of individuals, right? You can only go so far if you don't trust each other. If you trust each other, you can go so much further in anything that you do, because you know that you have that person's best interest and they have yours. When I talk about teams, teams are critical to me, both inside and outside of work. And you're only as strong as your weakest links on your team. And you have to trust each other to be able to pull each other up, to hold each other accountable, and to call each other out when things are good or bad. I think one of the biggest things in this world is we are very, very quick to point out faults, but it's not always easy to show kindness, right? All of us, I'm sure, go to work at some point, either at home or in the office, and you so often you get emails, or you get a call, or you get called into the office or whatever when you did something wrong. But why don't we ever show kindness to each other and pull each other in and celebrate when people do well? It's one of the biggest things that I'm trying to change in our organization, is the culture of, this is really what I want us to be driven by, is celebrating successes. Again, having fun together. And then this is the last thing that I talk about is, I have a bunch more slides, but I'm not going to go through them with this, but this is it says the standard is the standard. And none of you know this, but most people at the Rescue Mission know and understand this, is I'm a diehard, cut me open and I'll bleed Pittsburgh Steeler black and gold. I love the Steelers, and Mike Tomlin has been their coach for 14 years now, and he has never had a losing season in the NFL. And in the NFL, for those of you that follow it, that's very, very hard to do. The NFL is built around mediocrity, and they want everybody to kind of stay the same. And one of the reasons why the Steelers are so successful as an organization is, this is one of his famous sayings, is the standard is the standards. And what it means is, everyone who comes to this organization knows what's expected of them each and every day. And I have this up in my office. I have this on my screensaver for my computer. I have it in different places, and I've seen other people put it in their office, because for me, if we stand with the standard of service, love, kindness, respect, and that piece of element of having fun, that's the standard at the Rescue Mission. And people always laugh because, like, you just do it because it's the Steelers. And I said, yeah, partially. But I think Mike Tomlin, when you look at a leader, he is just the epitome of what it means to be a great leader. So these are just some of my expectations for our facility, which don't really do too much for you guys. And then now I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the Rescue Mission. And as I shared with Lindsay, as I put a lot of information on these slides, I'm not a big presenter with slides. I don't like to read slides. I don't do all that. And this is way too much information for you guys to try to take in. But the reason why I put the information on here was if Lindsay shared the slides with you, it will give you guys kind of a framework of what you're looking at or reading outside of when I'm here. But this is our mission statement here. And there's a couple things in our mission statement that I think are so telling of what we are about. And, you know, you can read it. It talks about how we serve the most needy, and, you know, we're there for when people have nowhere else to turn. But I think if you look at the end of it, and it talks about, we try to create an environment where one can live with dignity, build self-esteem, experience love, responsibility, and hope. That sentence to me is the crux of why I do the work that I do, and why I try to have the staff do the work that they do, because each and every person deserves all of that. But I think the critical part of that is, if you don't have dignity, you can't do any of the other, right? And dignity, we could probably talk about dignity for 5 or 6 hours about what does dignity mean? What does it look like? How do you experience it? How do you express it? But to me, one of the greatest things that we do as an organization to help individuals experience and understand dignity is in all of our units where we serve clients. We serve them a meal 3 times a day on a plate, hot meal on a plate. And people sometimes look at you like, well, what's the big deal? Well, we take that for granted, right? A meal on a plate. Many times when you go to institutions, shelter, folks are given a meal and it's in a bag. It's a sandwich or whatever. And forever we've said that that's not what we're about. We're going to treat individuals with the utmost respect and treat them as if they are human beings. They're going to experience love from that piece. And so often you'll see a client or hear a client who's coming to us for the first time into our shelter, and they say, thank you for giving us that meal on a plate. And there are some folks from your congregation who are talking about coming in, doing an event with us. And we were talking about how we would serve the meal. We talked a bunch about what the event would look like, but really the biggest thing that we focused on that day was, what's the service going to look like of the meal? Because it's such a big thing to us. So it just brings that human element to it, and it gives people dignity. This is just a quick slide on this. Has all of our programs. So emergency services, just changed that this year. Used to be known as our emergency shelter. And for years and years and years, the Rescue Mission, that's what we were about. We had emergency shelter, and that's what we were known for. I've changed that name to emergency services. One of it is because, yes, we still do a shelter, but we also have a day center. We also have 8 case managers who work in our shelter. 7 years ago, we had 1 case manager in our shelter. With partnerships with the state and the county, we have gotten a ton of grant money for services in our shelter to bring in case managers, which is so fantastic. And they focus on all kinds of different things, getting people into treatment, getting them their identification, birth certificate, all those things, getting them into housing. One of my favorite things to talk about is, or to brag about, I guess is the right way to say it, is in the midst of the pandemic in 2020, in the height of all of the chaos that was going on, we still were able to get 72 individuals housed from our shelter in the midst of who even knew what the hell was going on at that point. And we were still able to get that many folks housed. And it's because of the work that our case managers do. So so my opinion is, yes, the shelter is a piece of what we do now in our emergency services. We have a behavioral health center, which has 91-bed residential drug and alcohol treatment facility for men. We have 2 levels of care in there, long-term and halfway. Long-term, is normally someone who comes in for long-term treatment, stays with us about 6 to 8 months. Individual comes for halfway is about 4 to 6 months, and sometimes they'll transition from long-term into halfway. We also have an outpatient and an intensive outpatient unit, a part of that. We in our behavioral health center, we have two very, very distinct big programs. One is our vocational development program, which is pretty self-explanatory: workforce development, getting individuals all their IDs and things of that nature, but really getting them ready to go back out to work. And for a lot of our clients, which this also makes me feel old now, is a lot of our clients are younger than I am. They're in their mid-30s. When I first was at the mission, everybody was older than me, and it was great. Now I'm like, oh my gosh, like 70% of the clients are younger than me. But it's a huge thing, because a lot of our clients that we're seeing now have never been in the workforce. They had a job here or there doing very little skilled work, because they start their addiction at 16, 17 years old, and they never grew into working. So that's a huge thing for us. And then New Directions is a new program that we started a year and a half ago now. And it's really, really one of my biggest passions. One is I'm the co-founder of the program, but also I just think it's such a fantastic program. There's a chef Jeff Henderson. He's from Nevada. He did about 10 years in federal prison in the late 80s, early 90s for cocaine distribution out in California. And he came and spoke to the clients of the mission about 5 years ago, and his story and where he has ended up in life is just so amazing. He's a New York Times bestseller. He's the executive chef at de Bellagio, Harrah's out in Vegas. And I said to him, Chef, we need to design a program around your concept about, instead of looking at criminality and addiction and drug use as a deterrent and kind of something that holds you back. He talks about, you just change your mindset. Instead of selling drugs or using drugs, you change the product and you hustle yourself to employers, or you hustle yourself in life. And he talks about just a bunch of different things. And so what we have done is taken his idea and his concepts and designed a whole program where our clients go through a very rigorous program. It's 6 weeks, and we have subject matter experts that come in and talk to them about all kinds of different things in life, where they've been, what they've gone through. And really the premise of the class is we try to give the clients permission to dream and permission to hope, because so many of them have never had any of that. But we also talk to them about, we're going to show you love, and it's genuine. And the presenters are all come in and show them love and respect and what it's really all about. And they're surrounded by, as I said, subject matter experts. We have two people who worked in the White House under Obama's administration. One was the chief of staff for in the Clinton administration. So they're surrounded by really powerful individuals, but also that we have 8 presenters throughout the course of this who come in and talk to them about where they've been in life. And all 8 of them have done over 10 years in the prison system and are all super successful now. One is a professor at Lafayette. One runs PD Green in Boston. One is a consultant, HR consultant in New York City. And these are all people who did significant time in prison and were able to change their life around. The other program that we have is we do permanent supportive housing. We have almost 50 units of housing that we own and operate. And what we do there is individuals who have chronic homelessness, addiction, mental health disorder, we own houses and rent them to them at a very, very good rate, I'll say. And what we do is their rent includes everything: utilities, if they want cable, they get cable themselves, but all their utilities are always paid, included in their rent. And it's one of our pride and joys. It's one of the biggest things that I've built since I became the CEO. We had only very little housing units, and when I was actually the COO, we built a 15-unit apartment complex. That was our biggest endeavor into this. We did a building at the corner of Perry and Carroll Street, and we built the building, and it looks exactly like our warehouse buildings that have been there for 200 plus years. The building we built looks exactly like it because we didn't want it to look like, oh, well, there's the housing project or what, so we did it. We very, very distinctly talked a little bit about our thrift store. I'm going to put our thrift store and our food pantry together. Our thrift store used to be a very lucrative business that we were in. We collected used clothing and furniture and sold it to the community. We also, a lot of the clothing that we collect, we give away in our behavioral health unit in our shelter. We probably give away anywhere between 250 to 350,000 pounds of clothes a year to individuals that come in, but we also sell it in the store. You can say selling it, but it's half giving it away. We sell it $2 a pound of clothing, which is really extremely, extremely cheap. I think other places sell shirts and stuff for $5, $6. We tried to do that years ago. We tried to go to shirts, and our customers like revolted. They're like, Mr. Barrett, we're not doing that. I'm like, yeah, well, we're going to do that. And they're like, no, we'll just stop coming. They stopped coming for a week. And I was like, okay, you guys win. And our food pantry, as I talked a little bit about at the very beginning, is we opened our food pantry in the middle of the pandemic. And the reason why we did it was because of generosity from folks like you and other generous donors. We were able to do it. But the reason why we did it was when we opened back our thrift store in late June, early July, folks would come in and they get clothing and they'd say, do you have any food? We'll buy it, but we don't really have any food, and people always donated canned goods and stuff, and we can't, because we make about 600, 700 meals a day. So when somebody gives you 2 cans of corn, it's like, thank you, but we can't really use it that way. So we started giving that away. And then we said, why don't we do a bigger, and we ended up with our food pantry, which is super busy. We were open Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesdays and Thursdays we used to go shop and or restock. But we are very, very busy in the thrift store. The woman at the bottom with her daughter is actually in our food pantry. And you can see kind of behind the shelves. And one of the things that young girl has I think it's a giraffe, but in the middle of the pandemic, Amazon called and said, hey, do you want to receive donations of items that people either returned or never picked up? And we were like, oh yeah, sure. And it ends up, we thought it was going to be a couple boxes, and it's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of boxes of stuff from Amazon. The beauty of it is you never know what's in it. So you might get chains and like that you would tow with, or toys and everything in between. But what we have found is it has a ton of food in it, which is great. And even more importantly, it has toys in it. So we have on at least 1 or 2 shelves at any given time, toys, because so many mothers come in with their kids and we just say, here, take a toy. So it's given us such a great thing that they can take the toys. And at Christmas time, we had we called it we did like a Secret Santa, and we had it upstairs. And anyone who worked at the rescue mission was able to come upstairs and take 7 items and take them and give them away. And it was great because some of our staff work so close, to that line, that it was huge for them. They were able to grab, Barbies, which I have a 5-year-old daughter. She wanted every Barbie and everything. And they're like $20-some a piece for our staff. That's a huge thing. So we were able to give that away to our staff. These slides here, like I said, when Lindsay sends you the slide decks, you'll have this. It's a ton of information, but I think that if you look at just the big things that I put in bold here, last year we served over 1,000 individuals in our shelter. what we say individuals is we count you once, right? When you come in, it doesn't matter if you stayed 365 days or you stayed one. That's how we get a little over 1,000. But if you look at the 38,000, that's the total number of people that came into our show. That's a lot of people. Divide that by 365. That's over 100 and some folks in our shelter every day. What I love the best about the staff at the Rescue Mission for our shelter is if you walk into that shelter, there's 100 and some people in there. I guarantee you they know 90% of the people's names when they talk to them, which it amazes me. I struggle to remember all 91 or 92 people who work at the Rescue Mission. They remember the clients' names. And I think it speaks to what I talked about at the beginning: show kindness, respect, appreciate. It's critical. It's such a huge thing to them that they do that. And you see the 72,000 meals is a lot of meals. This is just a slide speaking about our behavioral health center, vocational development. One of the pieces in here that I just want to touch on is we also have a state-of-the-art program that we run with the University of Pennsylvania. I went to grad school there and graduated from there 7 years ago now. And when I was in class there, one of my professors talked about a program that he and his wife were designing, and it was a program designed for teaching clients who are re-entering out of the criminal justice system how to become entrepreneurs and run their own business. And he presented it in class, and I went up after class and I said, Dr. Chow, that's not going to work. And he's like, well, why? And I was like, you can't do the way you guys are designing this. And so he and his wife brought me in. We talked, and they now say that I'm a co-founder of the program. I'm really not. I just kind of gave them my own personal lived experience of how to do it. But we are now in our 7th year of running this program with Penn. And what I love about it is it's really built for clients who think they have a business idea and they want to go into the entrepreneur world. And they get to go down to the University of Pennsylvania and go to school. They go to school. This year it's every Monday. It used to be every Thursday, but it's every Monday. The woman who you see there with the glasses, Vita, she drives the guys down to school. They go to dinner and then they go to class on Penn's campus, which any of you who've ever been there, it is just absolutely gorgeous in the middle. It's in the middle of the city, and you feel like you're like I don't even know. It's just so beautiful with all the trees. And our guys get to experience that. And then at the end of the class, they get to pitch their business idea to a group of experts it's kind of like Shark Tank. And we've had some guys open businesses and start. Our greatest success is a guy by the name of Curtis. He actually teaches in the New Directions program as well, but he also went through the PrEP project, the Penn Restorative Entrepreneurial Program. He went through that program and started in 2019 an auto repair business, and he is in North Jersey, and he is super successful with it. He's actually been able to open up a landscaping business and is now going into the housing marketing business. He's going to open houses for people, and he's going to do just housing for people who are re-entering either with addiction or mental health. And it's all, he says it's all because of what he learned in this program. And it's just about giving people the tools to become, to become productive members of society. This is the New Directions program. The good looking guy on the right is Chef Jeff. And this, as I talked about a little bit, it's just a transformative program. It really is. It's state of the art. And he and I have talked about how we're going to just even grow it even further. And he has a wonderful program out in Vegas called the Chef Jeff Project. And what it is he teaches youth culinary skills, but also life skills at the same time. And what we're looking at is bringing that out here to teach individuals the culinary skills that they need to get jobs in the culinary and the hospitality industry, because it's a much needed skill. But also the other piece that we're looking to branch out for the new directions is getting individuals placed into career-oriented positions. So developing good workforce training, hospitality. The best way I can describe it is like the vocational technical schools, right? So many people don't push individuals towards that, but it's a necessary skill to have. I joke with people when I talk about this is when I was in high school, the driving force was, you got to go to college. You have to go to college. You have to go to college. And across the street was the vocational technical school. And the kids that went across there were looked at as oh, they're less than, they're this, they're that. Well, I don't know how many of you do this, but I know I do it. I take my car to the auto repair shop and I pay the guy that I made fun of in high school for going to school about $110 an hour to tell me all you had to do is change the oil. Oh, but that's a huge thing. And people don't think about that. And people in reentry, it's a great place for them to go. HVAC, all those skills, the solar world, all of those are skills that they can pick up and they can do. The thrift store, this is a woman who's come to our thrift store. I don't even know how long she's been coming now, but that is her little daughter. Her daughter, I remember when she was born, and like I was saying with the toys in the thrift store, whenever I see a little kid, I always give them whatever teddy bear or whatever's laying around. One is I want to get rid of it, but two is it just shows them that we're in this together. We're together, and she comes faithfully every single day to our store, and she buys clothing for her family, one, but she also buys clothing for her church. And she gives it away at the church to other members of the church who either can't afford it and or can't get to the rescue mission to buy it. So I just love that picture. And the little girl always comes in when she comes with her, and she's always trying on outfits. And the store clerks always give it and tell her to take it home. The mom's not always happy with us for it, but and then our food pantry. As I said, this is just a huge thing for us. I believe it's such the human side of individuals, right? And our young lady who runs the food pantry, her name is Arlie. And when we started running it, one of the big things that we talk about all the time in our shelter is we serve Mercer County clients, right? And so she started the mission working in the shelter. So maybe 2 weeks into the food pantry, she calls me and she says, Barrett, there's people here from Pennsylvania. What should I do? And I said, Arlie, are they asking for food? And she said, yes. I said, well, feed them, get them whatever they want. She said, well, we only do Mercer County. I said, no, that's in the shelter, Arlie. Here, anyone who walks in and asks for food, get them what they need, because think about it, is to go to a food pantry is probably, I've never had to do it, thankfully, but it's got to be probably one of the hardest things in the world to do, is to go and ask for help with food, because food is one of those things where everybody just takes it for granted. And when you walk into that food pantry, it could have taken somebody sometimes 2-3 weeks to muster up enough confidence to walk into that pantry to do it. And what I love about our pantry is because of partnerships, like I said, with you all, we partner with Mercer Street Friends, and Cisco and Costco. Cisco is our food vendor. They give us food for it. They donate food. Costco gives us gift cards, and we can just go and buy different items. And Mercer Street Friends gives us a ton of food for it. But what I love about it is when you go into our pantry, we have the canned goods on the shelves and all that, but we also have eggs, milk, pork chops, chicken, fish, so there's always a nice variety in there for what folks want to choose. And one of the things that we did, what I liked about the food pantry, was when you started to look into how do you run a food pantry, the greatest part was that you have to report back on what you give away, but there's no real rule for how often somebody can come. So we started talking, being like, oh, people come once a month and this. I'm like, that sounds like crazy, once a month. So what we did was we give you a card and you can come back every 2 weeks and it has your date on it. So, and people come back religiously on that day when they can come. And what we have found is a lot of times they bring back their card and they bring somebody else with them, which I think is great. So our food pantry has opened up a lot of doors for us. And at the bottom there, you can see Pat's Diner, Blooming Grove, Leonardo's are 3 restaurants that we partnered with in the midst of the pandemic. The DEA had a grant that came out that was called Sustain and Serve. We're missing Trentini's in there. Trentini's is a local pizzeria in Trenton also, but what they came out with was this grant called Sustain and Serve. And what it was they would give you money, but the thing there was what you had to do was you had to buy meals at a local restaurant and feed homeless with it. So we're now on our we just finished the third go around of that money, but we were able to do that. And what we said to them was, well, we're going to partner with you. When you have leftovers from the day before, the day of, why don't you make them into meals? And we bought these containers that you could freeze, and we would put them in the food pantry and people could take home a pre-made meal that was frozen. They just had to heat it up. So it was a great partnership all around. One, the Sustain and Serve money kept some of those restaurants open, literally, but it also allowed us to be able to bring in awesome meals that people could go home and heat up, which I thought was really, really an awesome thing. Especially in our permanent supportive housing, our clients that live there are mainly single adult men, and men are not always the best cooks. Sometimes they're very good, but sometimes they're not. And they loved it because they could come, they were working, they could go, they could take the meal to work, they could come home, pop it in the microwave, and they'd have a nice hot meal. And it was always something different. Chicken marsala, chicken franchise, or whatever it was from these different restaurants. It was just a cool thing because it was something that they would probably never think to make or cook themselves. So before I go to questions, I just wanted to read this. And in service this morning, they talked about this, and I thought this just went so perfectly with what the mission does and why we do it. And it's Matthew 25:35. It talks about, I was hungry and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger and you invited me in. And I wrote that down because it just speaks completely to what the Rescue Mission is about. When people ask me all the time, what's your proudest thing about what the Rescue Mission does? And it's this: is anyone who walks into our facility, doesn't matter if you're walking into our behavioral health unit, which so many of our guys that come to our behavioral health unit are brought there by sheriffs, which means they are being transported from jail or prison. So they have handcuffs on, shackles on their feet. And when they walk in, or the folks who come to our shelter who may have a trash bag with them with holes all in it or whatever, and that's everything that they own. I know this for a fact because I see it day in and day out. Is the first question our staff asks is, what is your name, so that they can speak to you by name. And the second question is, do you want something to eat? And we have built our foundation on that because everybody's hungry all the time. You want something to eat, you need food. And it also shows them and treats them with that, I talked about at the beginning, dignity, right? You're coming to us, we're gonna help you, but the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna give you something good to eat. And what I love about, especially in our behavioral health units, because the guys live there, and there's 91 that live there, you actually see the guys now, when an intake comes, they run to the kitchen. Guys here, get the food, so they know what's coming. So our intake worker comes up, brings them down to the dining hall so that they can eat, right? And a lot of times the sheriff says, oh, well, he ate. And the guy goes, well, I had a sandwich on the way here, like, kind of like trying to eat it in the van. And we're like, no, here's a meal. And again, on a plate, hot. I think it just speaks to who we are as an organization. It's built on that foundation of, you know, and the other thing with that is, it's a lot easier to have a conversation with somebody over a meal, right? Again, that woman who spoke at your church talked about, she was new to the parish or new to your congregation. And when she went away on a, it sounded like a mission trip that you all did, her greatest memories, or some of her fondest memories, were sitting and eating with people. Why? Because it's easy to you now have their undivided attention for 5 or 10 minutes, no matter what it is. They can't, like, it's really kind of awkward if you're starting to eat and somebody starts talking to you and you just, oh. So you have their attention for that a bit of time. And we have found it's really kind of at the core of who we are and what we're about, is feeding people and clothing them. And if you have those two pieces, somebody feels a lot better about themselves, and it gives them that dignity, and you can start to see them build hope in where they're going to go. Takes time, but it gives us kind of the foundation of where we're going to build from. So, any questions? Yes, ma'am. 1 million times, yeah. In me, myself, I think it's a pretty easy answer for me. Is I've, as a young kid, as I shared, I was around the rescue mission, and I have never in my life looked at people as less than. I remember as a kid going to the mission and playing basketball with the guys who were in treatment. Never, ever did I think, well, this guy was a criminal. This was that. These were guys, I was 10 years old and I went over and played basketball with them, right? And so I think just that element of just people are human beings, right? And it's really lost in the world today. It really is. And if we had more of it and people accepted each other, I think it would be a lot different. And you know, the element of just understanding what people may or may not have gone through is lost in today's world. And dignity is I think people struggle with it. And a lot of it has become, what do you have and what I don't have? Yes, my kids want for nothing, right? But I work very hard for that, and my wife does as well. But my kids love going to the rescue mission. They love it. My 5-year-old has only been there a couple of times, and she always asks, "Daddy, when can I go back to your work? When can I?" And my son, when he was a kid, when he would go there, he would walk into the mission and go right to the refrigerator where the cookies were, because he always. But he and some of the people who work there and some of the clients who have gone through the program and actually now work for us, they always ask me, "How are your kids doing?" Right? And yes, I get it. I'm the CEO, but I'm still a human being just like everybody else, and that's a hard lesson for people to understand and to know. So I hope that answers the question a little bit. Oh, thank you. Mm-hmm. And, it's very frustrating, and that's, like I said, like I talked about, is our driving force is people are people. I don't care that you get paid to come and work with these folks, but even more importantly, you should treat them with utmost respect and treat them as human beings, because so many times in the clients' lives that we serve, they've been told they're less than. They've been told they're no good. They've been told they're a criminal. And it's, yes, that's a part of them, but it's not who they are. And, everybody has that chance and opportunity in life to change. And I don't care how many times it takes, but we'll be there for you. Like, we'll be that constant that's there. And when you're ready, we'll be there. So, any other questions?
You give them enough, you give fines in the food pantry, then come back every 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure you don't give them enough food for 2 weeks. Do you also give them a list of resources where they can go in between?
We do. We have a whole list. And the other thing I didn't mention it, and don't take this out of this room, is the Amazon stuff, right? Is not counted in what we get from the food bank. So we just put a box, and if somebody picked it up with a bunch of candies, it went right. But yes, we give them resources where they can go and who else they can go and see to get food. And we're kind of liberal with the amount that we allow them to take. But again, to your point, it's never enough, right? When you have a family of 5 or 6, it's tough. So
how do you get the Amazon stuff in? The Amazon stuff, how's it get?
We go pick it up. Yeah. So just I have two, I have a part-time and a full-time truck driver. And what we do is, and this just tells you how cheap Amazon is we go and pick it up. They won't even put it, it's on those big boxes, but we have to bring our own pallets, and they put it on they actually bring it out on the forklift on a pallet, and then we have to load it onto our own pallets. I'm like, you can't, we'll trade you pallets. So, but that's been a gift that just keeps on giving. But yeah, like I said, we've seen in one box, you see like a Cliff Bars, and then you see, like I said, a chain, like a 100-foot yellow chain, and then a raincoat. And it's like, okay. But the good thing is we'll make it all work. You had a question, ma'am?
Goodwill on a regular basis. Where do we drop off for you?
So we have, if you go on our website, the Rescue Mission of Trenton.org, we have, and you go under the donation tab, it has all of our clothing. We have a ton of clothing box locations. The Reverend actually said that he would actually put one across the street in your parking lot for us. So I'm gonna reach out to him for that. And what we do is we have a truck driver, and he drives around and services those once a week. So, but you can also call and depending upon what it is, we can always work it out. Yep. Yes, ma'am.
The story used to be a weekly.
Mm-hmm.
So like they were saying to me that they started like taking things to the store and selling them online.
Right.
Like that, like
So we want. Oh, sorry. The question was, the store used to be a very lucrative business for the Rescue Mission, and like I said, we had a bunch of stores throughout New Jersey. And one is the quality of furniture, right? Way back when furniture was really good wooden furniture, and it was quality built. What was it? Thomas's, I think, was one, right? Thomas, yeah, Ethan Allen. And now everybody buys furniture, and it lasts 5 or 6 years, and you get rid of it. And my wife and I I was just talking to her yesterday. I said, our couch, we got to get rid of it. It's about 6 years old. It's it's Ashley, but you wouldn't want to give it away because the arm is kind of, yeah, exactly. IKEA stuff, all that. So that was one of the pieces of it. And the second part of the question was about the online, right? Yeah. So online it's a difficult animal to reach into. We actually had an eBay store for years, and just tells you how entrepreneurial some of our clients are. We had a former client who ran the store, and he was able to sell any of the items, right? And he actually had the Rescue Mission's eBay store, but he also had his eBay store. But good on him, right? He was offered product, and he made a living out of it. But the answer to that was when you get donated items, it's hard to have an inventory. You never know what the truck went out, came in, but no one ever knows what came, because you don't have a barcode and scan it in. And then the pandemic has just completely changed the whole landscape of the way that we do. So all of our store now is really probably break even or maybe even loses a little bit. But I actually view our thrift store with the food pantry as really a community service than a business anymore. We have folks who work in there, but we're not profiting off of it really. So yes, ma'am.
Yes, at an upholstery shop where you were teaching people skill sets and people could bring things to you at a very good rate. You still do that?
So you're talking way back when this is when I was a kid now. You're taking me back. So no. You're wise. You're wise.
As a corrections officer, and they used to do it as part of the prison to teach skill sets to people coming out. And I know that the Rescue Mission used to do.
Oh yeah, we used to have, when I was a kid, we had an upholstery shop, a paint shop, and my favorite was we had a bike shop.
Okay.
And then we also had a maintenance shop, but we still have our maintenance, and our maintenance is done all on site. But the upholstery, the bike, and the painting, all that has kind of dissipated with like I was saying, with the quality of furniture, but it used to be a huge piece for us. We had 15 or 20 guys worked in there. We do not anymore. So I was gonna say, are we running into church? I don't want to keep people. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Barrett. I really appreciate it. I just wanted to give you a heads up, but we are running close to service time. But the next 2 weeks, we're going to be talking about dismantling and eradicating structural racism. And you may or may not know that APC has a working group on racial justice. And so they are going to be teaching our session next week. And then the following week, we'll be hearing from an organization called Building Bridges, and they're from Nassau Presbyterian Church and Witherspoon Presbyterian Church. It's a partnership between a historically Black and a historically white congregation just right in Princeton. So that's our next 2 weeks. So come back next week to continue the conversation about what it means that we are a Matthew 25 church. And for now, I'll see you over in worship where my little baby daughter is going to be baptized. So very excited. Thank you, Barrett.